My lawyer texted, Dyungyo. And that's when I learned my sister was about to steal my entire life. The message came in at 9:17 a.m., just 2 words. Don't go. I was already standing outside the courthouse when my phone vibrated in my hand. My sister Melissa was inside waiting for me. She had insisted we settle everything peacefully. No drama, no court battles, she said. We're family. I almost walked in anyway. If I had taken just 10 more steps, I would have signed away everything my father left me. And I would have never known what she had planned. My name is Daniel. I'm 34 years old. And until that day, I believed blood meant loyalty. I was wrong. 3 months earlier, our father died unexpectedly from a heart attack. No warning. No goodbye. 1 minute he was fixing the fence in the backyard, the next he was gone. He left behind a modest house, a small construction business, and some savings. Nothing extraordinary. But it was everything he had built with his own hands. Melissa and I were his only children. Growing up, she was always the stronger one. Confident. Loud. Protective. After Mom left when I was 12, Melissa stepped up. She helped Dad cook. She helped me with homework. She became the glue that held us together. Or at least that's what I believed. After the funeral, she hugged me and said, "We'll get through this together. I promise." And for a while, it felt true. She handled most of the paperwork. She said she had more experience with contracts and legal matters. I trusted her. Why wouldn't I? She was my sister. Then she suggested we meet at the courthouse to finalize some documents. That would make managing Dad's business easier. It's just formalities, she said. We'll both be equal owners, but I'll take care of operations. You don't have time for all that stress. She knew I had a full-time job as a teacher. She knew I wasn't interested in construction, so I agreed. Until that text. Don't go. I called my lawyer immediately. What's wrong? I asked, my heart pounding. There was a pause on the other end. A heavy one. Daniel, he said carefully. The document your sister sent over this morning. It transfers full ownership of the house and business to her. You would receive a one-time payment. After that, you'd have no legal claim to anything. My knees went weak. What? I whispered. She added an addendum late last night. It wasn't in the original draft she showed you. I felt like the ground beneath me was dissolving. She told me we'd be equal partners. I'm sorry, he said. But if you sign today, you walk away with almost nothing. Almost nothing. The house I grew up in. Dad's workshop that still smelled like sawdust and engine oil. The company he spent 30 years building. All gone. I looked at the courthouse doors. Melissa was probably inside, smiling, ready to hug me. My chest tightened, not just with anger, but with something worse. Betrayal. I didn't go inside. Instead, I drove home, and that's when the memories started replaying differently. I remembered how quickly she volunteered to handle Dad's finances after he got sick last year. I remembered how she discouraged me from asking too many questions. Trust me? She'd say. I've got it. I remembered the night she said Dad had updated his will, but I never saw it myself. Suddenly, everything felt staged. That afternoon, Melissa called me 6 times. I didn't answer. Then came the texts. Where are you? The lawyer is waiting. Daniel, don't do this. You're overthinking. Finally, one message that sent a chill through me. If you don't sign today, things will get ugly. Ugly. Between siblings. That was the moment something inside me shifted. I called my lawyer back and asked him to request a full copy of the will directly from the estate office. What we found changed everything. There was no updated will. The only official document on record was the one Dad wrote 8 years ago. It clearly stated equal division of all assets between both children. Equal, no conditions, no amendments, which meant Melissa had tried to override it with that courthouse agreement. Legally, she could propose it. But morally, it felt like a knife to the heart. That evening, she showed up at my apartment. She didn't knock gently. She pounded on the door. When I opened it, her face was red, eyes blazing. Why didn't you come? she demanded. I saw the addendum. Silence. For a split second, guilt flickered across her face. Then it hardened. It's just business, she said. You don't even want the company. That doesn't mean I want to be erased. You would have gotten a payout! Pennies compared to what it's worth. She stepped inside without asking. You don't understand, she said. I've invested years into helping Dad. I deserve more. We both deserve what he intended. She laughed bitterly. He intended for the business to survive. And it won't with you involved. The words stung more than I expected. I never said I wanted to run it alone, I replied. We could hire someone. You're Navi, she snapped. This world eats Nava people alive. Maybe it does. But I wasn't Navi anymore. I looked at her, really looked at her, and I saw fear. Are you in debt? I asked quietly. Her jaw tightened. That was answer enough. A week later, I discovered the full truth. Melissa had taken out several personal loans over the past 2 years. Risky investments. A failed startup. Credit cards maxed out. Dad didn't know the full extent. When he died, she saw the inheritance as her escape. If she controlled everything, she could leverage the company, refinance the house, and cover her losses. She wasn't just trying to take more. She was trying to survive. And she was willing to sacrifice me to do it. The realization broke something inside me. But it also awakened something else. Strength. For the first time in my life, I stopped trying to keep the peace. I hired a forensic accountant. We discovered irregular withdrawals from Dad's business account months before his death. Not massive amounts, but enough to raise questions. When confronted, Melissa admitted she had borrowed money. I was going to pay it back, she said. With what? I asked. She had no answer. The legal battle lasted months. Family friends took sides. Some said I was being heartless. Others whispered that Melissa had always been reckless. Every court date felt like another funeral. We weren't just dividing assets. We were burying a childhood. One afternoon, after a brutal mediation session, Melissa broke down in the hallway. I'm drowning, she whispered. I didn't know what else to do. For a moment, I saw my older sister again. The one who packed my school lunches. The one who sat with me when I cried after Mom left. And I felt the urge to give in. To sign. To let her have it all. But then I remembered Dad's voice. Fair doesn't mean easy, he used to say. It means right. So I made a decision. Not out of revenge. But out of balance. I proposed a settlement. We would honor the original will. Equal ownership. But we would sell the company together. Transparently. Split the profits fairly. And the house. We would sell it too. Neither of us would keep it. We would let go of the physical pieces, but keep the memory intact. At first, she refused. Then reality caught up with her. Her debts were too large to hide anymore. She agreed. The day we signed the final documents, there were no hugs. No smiles. Just exhaustion. But also honesty. As we walked out of the building, she stopped me. I'm sorry, she said, barely audible. I studied her face, searching for manipulation. I found only regret. I know you were scared. I replied. But you should have trusted me. Tears filled her eyes. I didn't trust myself. That was the real tragedy. Months later, the company sold for more than we expected. The house too. We both walked away with enough to start fresh. Melissa used her share to clear her debts and begin financial counseling. I used mine to open a small learning center for underprivileged kids. Something Dad had always dreamed of supporting. We don't talk every day anymore. But we're rebuilding. Slowly. Carefully. Because trust, once cracked, takes time to heal. Sometimes I think about that morning outside the courthouse. About those 2 words. Don't go. If my lawyer hadn't sent that message, I would have signed. I would have lost everything, not just money, but my voice, my dignity, my father's legacy. Life has a strange way of testing you through the people you love most. And sometimes, the greatest act of love isn't sacrificing yourself. It's standing your ground. Because fairness is not betrayal. Truth is not cruelty. And protecting what is rightfully yours does not make you selfish. It makes you brave. That day, I almost walked into a building and signed away my future. Instead, I walked away. And in doing so, I didn't just save my inheritance. I saved myself. The hardest part wasn't the court dates. It wasn't the paperwork. It wasn't even the betrayal. It was the silence afterward. For weeks after the settlement, Melissa and I didn't speak. Not because the lawyers told us not to. Not because we hated each other. But because we didn't know how. When you grow up sharing a bedroom, secrets, and late-night laughter, how do you suddenly talk like strangers? I moved into a small rented apartment across town. It wasn't much. Just white walls, second-hand furniture, and a window that overlooked a parking lot. But it was quiet. Too quiet. At night, I would sit on the edge of my bed and think about Dad. I'd replay his last birthday. The way he laughed when Melissa burned the cake. The way he put his arm around both of us and said, "No matter what happens in life, you two only have each other." Back then, it sounded comforting. Now, it felt like a warning. One evening, about 3 months after everything ended, I received an unexpected call. It was Mr. Harris, Dad's old foreman from the construction company. "I heard you sold the business," he said gently. "Yeah," I replied. It was time. There was a pause. "Your dad was proud of you, you know." My throat tightened. "Off me." "Yes. He used to say you had a different kind of strength. Not loud like Melissa, but steady, thoughtful." I swallowed hard. "He also said," Mr. Harris continued, "that he hoped if you two ever fought, you'd be the one to forgive first." Those words stayed with me long after the call ended. Forgive first, not forget. Not ignore. Forgive. A week later, I drove past the old house for the first time since it sold. A young family was moving in. Kids were running across the lawn that Dad once mowed every Saturday morning. I didn't feel anger. I felt closure. As I turned to leave, I noticed someone sitting on the curb across the street. Melissa. She looked smaller somehow. Not physically. Just humbled. For a moment, I considered driving away. But instead I parked. I walked over slowly. She didn't look up at first. "I thought I was the only one who came here," she said quietly. "I guess we both needed to say goodbye." The wind carried the smell of fresh paint from the house. "I used to think owning it would make me feel safe," she admitted. "Like if I controlled something solid, I wouldn't fall apart." And did it? She shook her head. I was already falling. We sat there in silence, watching strangers carry boxes into what used to be our childhood. "I've been going to therapy," she said suddenly. I looked at her. "I didn't just have money problems," she continued. "I have control problems. I panic when I feel powerless. And when Dad died, I felt like the ground disappeared." Her honesty surprised me. "I was scared too," I said. "You didn't show it." I didn't know how. For the first time in months, we were talking without defense. Without strategy. Just two siblings who lost their father, and didn't know how to grieve properly. "I really thought you'd hate me forever," she whispered. "I was close," I admitted. That made her let out a shaky laugh. "But I don't," I added. "I was hurt. Deeply. But I don't hate you." She wiped her eyes. "I don't deserve that." "Maybe not," I said gently. "But forgiveness isn't about deserving. It's about choosing peace." The sun began to set, casting golden light over the house. "I kept thinking money would fix everything," she said. "But you know what actually helped?" "What?" "Losing control." I raised an eyebrow. She smiled faintly. "When I couldn't force things my way anymore, I had to face myself. My fears. My mistakes. It was humiliating. But it was also freeing." I nodded slowly. Pain has a strange way of revealing truth. Over the next few months, we started meeting for coffee once a week. Nothing dramatic. Just small conversations. We talked about Dad. About memories we had forgotten. About the way he used to whistle off key while working in the garage. Sometimes we cried. Sometimes we laughed. Sometimes we just sat quietly. Rebuilding trust felt like learning to walk again after a fall. Slow. Careful. Intentional. One afternoon, Melissa surprised me. I want to invest in your learning center, she said. I stared at her. You don't have to. I know, I want to. Not as control, not as leverage, just because I believe in it. I hesitated. Old fears whispered in my mind. But then I looked at her. Not the sister who tried to take everything. The sister who was trying to become better. Okay, I said softly. But equal partnership? She smiled. Equal? That word felt different now. Not competitive. Not suspicious. Just fair. The learning center opened 6 months later. On opening day, a group of kids ran through the doors, their laughter filling the rooms. I stood near the entrance, overwhelmed. Melissa stood beside me. Dad would have loved this, she whispered. I felt tears well up. He'd be proud of both of us? She looked at me unsure. Even me? Especially you, I said. Because you faced your mistakes. She took a deep breath. Thank you for not going into that courthouse that day. I smiled slightly. Thank my lawyer. But deep down, I knew it was more than that. It was a moment of awakening. A moment when I chose self-respect over silence. And that choice didn't just protect my inheritance. It forced both of us to confront who we had become. Life doesn't break families in a single moment. It cracks them slowly, through fear, through pride, through unspoken pain. But healing also happens slowly, through honesty, through accountability, through the courage to stand firm without losing compassion. If I had signed those papers, maybe things would have been easier for a while. Less conflict, less tension. But resentment would have grown like poison inside me. Instead, we faced the storm. And somehow, we came out stronger. Not perfect, not untouched, but real. So if you ever find yourself standing outside a door, ready to sign away your voice just to keep peace, pause. Listen, because sometimes the most important message in your life comes in just 2 words. Don't go. Not into something that erases you. Not into silence, not into betrayal disguised as love. Stand still, ask questions, protect what is rightfully yours. And remember, love does not require self-destruction. Family does not mean surrender. And forgiveness does not mean forgetting the lesson. It means learning it, and choosing better next time. That day, I thought I was losing my sister. Instead, I found my strength. And eventually, I found her again. A year passed. If you had told me back then that Melissa and I would one day stand side by side, without resentment burning between us, I wouldn't have believed you. Healing didn't come in a dramatic apology. It came in small, ordinary moments. Like the first time she called me just to ask how my day was. Not about money, not about paperwork, just me. Like the evening we argued about something simple, paint colors for the learning center. And instead of attacking each other, we laughed at how stubborn we both were. Trust didn't return all at once. It rebuilt itself quietly, brick by brick, but life wasn't done testing us. One afternoon, I received another unexpected call. This time from the buyer who had purchased Dad's old construction company. There's something you should know, he said. My stomach tightened. For a second, I felt that old anxiety creeping back. What is it? I asked. We've been going through older project files. There's a long-term land contract your father had been negotiating before he passed. It wasn't finalized, but it has potential. A lot of potential. I frowned. What kind of potential? If it's approved by the city, the land value could triple in 5 years. My heart skipped. Why are you telling me this? Because technically, the agreement was initiated before the sale. Legally, you and your sister might still have a claim to part of it. I believe in fairness. Fairness. That word again. After the call ended, I sat in silence. This could mean more money. More stability. A bigger expansion for the learning center. Security for the future. But it could also mean reopening old wounds. When I told Melissa, I watched her reaction carefully. She went quiet. A year ago, her eyes would have sparked with urgency, strategy, control. Now, she just exhaled slowly. Do you want to pursue it? She asked. I don't know. I admitted. Part of me is tired of fighting. She nodded. I don't want to go back to who I was, she said softly. If this becomes about greed, I'm out. That answer surprised me. So what do you think we should do? I asked. She thought for a moment. I think we should ask ourselves one question. If Dad were here, what would he care about more? The money or what we've rebuilt? Her words hit deep. Dad worked hard. He valued opportunity. But he valued integrity more. After days of discussion meetings and legal consultations, we made a decision. We would pursue the claim, but only if it didn't destroy our peace. No manipulation, no secrecy. Complete transparency. For the first time in our lives, we operated as true partners. The process took months. City approvals, legal clarifications, endless documents. But something had changed. There were no hidden messages. No midnight addendums. Every step we reviewed together. And in that process, I learned something important. Melissa wasn't my enemy. She had been a scared version of herself. Fear makes people selfish. Pain makes them desperate. But growth makes them accountable. One evening, during yet another meeting with lawyers, we stepped outside for fresh air. You know, she said, leaning against the building. When you didn't show up at the courthouse that day, I thought you were betraying me. I looked at her. I thought you were betraying me? She smiled sadly. We were both wrong in different ways. I nodded. I think we were both grieving, I said. We just handled it differently. She stared at the sky. I wish I had trusted you sooner. I wish I had spoken up sooner, I replied. Silence settled between us, not uncomfortable. Just reflective. You saved me, you know, she said quietly. How? If you had signed those papers, I would have won. I would have controlled everything. And I would have never faced my own mess. I might have lost you forever. Her voice trembled. Not going in that day forced me to look at myself. I swallowed hard. Sometimes the strongest thing you can do for someone is refuse to enable their worst instincts. Months later, the land deal was approved. The value increased significantly. After taxes and legal divisions, Melissa and I received an unexpected financial boost. But this time, the money didn't feel heavy. It didn't feel like a weapon. It felt like a tool. We made a joint decision. A portion would expand the learning center into a full community hub. Job training, financial literacy classes, counseling support. The rest, we split evenly. No arguments. No suspicion. On the day the expansion opened, I stood at the front of the new building, watching families walk in. Melissa was inside, organizing donated books. I walked over to her. Remember the courthouse? I asked. She let out a soft laugh. How could I forget? If I had ignored that text. She finished my sentence. We wouldn't be here. I nodded. Life rarely gives you clear warnings. Sometimes it whispers. Sometimes it shakes you. And sometimes it sends two simple words that change everything. Don't go. Looking back, I realized something powerful. The real inheritance Dad left us wasn't the house. It wasn't the company. It wasn't the land deal. It was the opportunity to choose who we wanted to become when tested. I could have chosen silence and resentment. Melissa could have chosen control and denial. Instead, after pain and conflict, we chose growth. That doesn't mean everything is perfect. We still disagree. We still carry scars. But those scars remind us of who we were and who we refuse to be again. If there's one lesson I've learned through all of this, it's this. Love without boundaries becomes sacrifice. Boundaries without love become walls. But when you combine truth with compassion, you create something stronger than either one alone. The day I didn't walk into that courthouse, I thought I was protecting money. In reality, I was protecting dignity. I was protecting balance. I was protecting the possibility that one day, my sister and I could look at each other without bitterness. And today, when I see her teaching a financial literacy class to single parents at the community center, sharing her own mistakes openly so others don't repeat them, I know something beautiful came out of something painful. We lost a father. We nearly lost each other. But we found something deeper than inheritance. We found accountability. We found forgiveness. We found strength. And sometimes, that's worth more than anything money can buy. So if you ever receive a warning, from your instincts, from someone you trust, from a quiet voice inside your chest, don't ignore it. Pause. Question. Stand firm. Because one decision can change the direction of your entire life. Mine came in the form of a text message. 2 words. Don't go. Because I listened. I didn't just save my future. I saved my family.